Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. If you haven't seen it, Battlefield 6 has its official reveal trailer out, and I think later on in the week or next week they're going to do their multiplayer reveal, and everybody's hyped. And you know what? Battlefield is one of those game series where I've enjoyed some of the campaigns over the years. I thought Battlefield 1 and also Battlefield 5 had some pretty interesting campaigns. Same with 3 and 4. 3 was very much like on rails. 4 was a lot more fun, and Bad Company and Bad Company 2 are just amazing to me. They had some amazing campaigns. I haven't really played the multiplayer side of Battlefield in a very long time, basically since like Bad Company 2, because, FPSs I kind of just got bored with, and also I used to play quite a lot of COD. Nowadays, obviously being a bit older, playing War Thunder and strategy games is a lot more interesting. And I thought what we would do is talk about Battlefield 6, kind of in relation to War Thunder. One of the things that a lot of people have always talked about with War Thunder is how when it comes to their map design and stuff like that, some people wish that they had Battlefield maps in War Thunder, even though it wouldn't really work very well. But the idea is you have these massive scale, kind of the whole evolution or levolution maps where things get destroyed and basically the battleground gets absolutely annihilated, and then you kind of push from there. And with War Thunder talking about the whole infantry component for April Fools this year, got a lot of people hyped because, to be honest, with Battlefield, it's been in a pretty bad place for like nearly a decade. It's kind of wild to think about how long it's been since you've had kind of a really cool Battlefield game that everybody really liked. And so every time there's an official reveal for Battlefield, a new game, you get people who just get hyped again, and then they get let down later on. So I feel like when it comes to games in general, especially with these larger series, with like Call of Duty and Battlefield and many other FPSs, whenever a new one comes out or whenever an update comes out, the first thing that always gets talked about is like the negativity of it. And for me, I kind of like the idea of having a really cool campaign in Battlefield 6. I hope it's a long one. I hope it's not just a cutscene movie campaign, like pretty much what FPSs are nowadays. There was a shift when it came to FPSs. I don't know when it was, maybe like 5 to 10 years ago, where basically every campaign just became kind of like a tutorial for the multiplayer. A lot of RTSs started doing the same thing as well, and I get it. Like, I really do. Like, your focus is on multiplayer because that's kind of the longevity of the game. But for me personally, I really liked the campaign part of it, which is why if they ever offered something like, let's say for the Call of Duties or for the Battlefields, where you could like purchase just like the single player stuff for a lower amount of money, I would do that every time because I have no interest in the multiplayer side of things. But what watching these kind of trailers does for me, it makes me think about the future when it comes to not just FPSs, but also something like War Thunder. War Thunder as a game has kind of transcended every other game in terms of what it's been able to do. The amount of vehicles that are in it, the amount of game modes, because if we actually take them all into account, there's a ridiculous amount of game modes. You have Air Arcade, Realistic, Simulator, Ground Arcade, Realistic Simulator, so there's 6. You got the 2 naval modes, then EC, so that's 9. You have the PvE modes, which I think there's like 3 of them with Helicopter, Air Assault, and Ground Assault, so that is 12 game modes. And then also you have like custom events, you have custom games, and on top of that, you also have the tournaments that happen every week. So there's up to like 15 to 20 different setups depending on how you look at it. Whereas most FPSs or most games like War Thunder have like 2 or 3. So when we think about like the game modes of War Thunder and thinking about expanding them, I think it's always worth kind of thinking about what's kind of going on there in terms of them. And I feel like a game like Battlefield, which generally is based around 1 or 2 game modes in the multiplayer, can be seen as something to learn from for War Thunder in expanding its main game modes and also getting people to play them. I think the class system of the old Battlefield games is a really interesting one. It would be cool if in War Thunder you could kind of have weird classes of vehicles which actually gave them specific bonuses instead of just SP cost and also certain mechanics. It would be interesting to see if you could actually tag specific vehicles with a type of class, maybe not a specific class, but maybe a bonus to it from crew side of things. So maybe you could give it, like, I don't know, extra reload, or maybe extra, not acceleration, but reaction to acceleration. You could pick like a specialization, for example, for your vehicles in order to move them around. Maybe they'll learn from the graphics side of Battlefield, because these cutscenes in the actual kind of reveal trailer look really cool. Like, they look really nice. Obviously, there's absolutely no gameplay of the game, so that's why it's very hard to get hyped about these things, especially since usually it leads to a lot of disappointment. And also at the same time in Battlefield, they do the cringe. Okay, like, could we stop doing like this multi-millionaire military kind of setup where, like, or PMCs, like where the private military corporations, could we please go back to like country versus country stuff? I get that, you know, you don't want to piss off markets, and I get that you want to at the same time just like basically be like, hey, so we don't want our game banned in this place, you know, we want it to be played everywhere and we want to make the most money as possible. So private military corporation, but they're using all the same, you know, weapons that you know and love. Yeah, how about we actually instead just like be like, hey, it's China versus US, or it's Ethiopia versus, I don't know, Uganda. Like, why not just have a bit of fun with that and actually market it around it? One of my favorite kind of like funny scenarios was with the game Homefront. Homefront had Homefront 1 and Homefront 2. They kind of changed the story for the second one, but the story was North Korea somehow took over Asia and then ended up invading the United States via the sea, which is just like fantastic. I would love stuff like that. And I feel like when it comes to War Thunder, right? War Thunder has the pages of history. War Thunder has this kind of setup. There's no reason why they couldn't kind of like push forward and also do these kind of like storied campaigns where you get access to some kind of historical or maybe alt reality historical cutscenes, very similar to what you see from the Battlefield trailer, and it gives you kind of a interest in what's going on. They could sell them as like little DLCs, kind of like how they used to do with the historic campaigns, where those actually do have videos, historical videos, which are built into them. It would be awesome to have that type of thing in War Thunder. Now, from the infantry component, if Battlefield 6 is a huge success, this, I'm guessing, would push Gaijin more to actually think about implementing infantry in War Thunder as an idea. I personally think, I just don't think it would really work in the current game modes that we have, especially when, you know, Listed exists and kind of shows that it doesn't work. Like, they had to heavily modify the maps and also the Daegor engine to make it actually work. I think generally, in terms of it, you'd probably have to do it as kind of like a separate game mode with kind of lighter vehicles, whether it be like trucks or whether it be like APCs, which, you know, in Enlisted they've started adding in, and that would be kind of cool. But it would mean that if Battlefield 6 is a success, I think that would actually push Gaijin more to going towards that idea, to trying not just conquer the vehicle genre, which, I mean, they're doing a very good job of right now. They're in a very, very positive position, but also push themselves into other genres, such as the FPS genre, just with War Thunder, because they do have a bunch of other kind of products right now which focus on FPS. Enlisted is one of them, and they also have that Tarkov-esque game which also exists, the extraction shooter, which has more kind of, I don't know, psychoactive elements, I think is probably the way I would put it. But War Thunder being a product which has to constantly expand, I think it's good to kind of learn from these other products and to see what you could add into it. And I think the main thing with War Thunder is simple. The multiplayer side of things is really cool, and there's a lot of really interesting stuff to it. But at the same time, there's a huge other part of the game which has kind of been left by itself for the longest time. And I think now it's worth kind of thinking about it, reinvigorating it, and maybe getting it going alongside other products like Battlefield, like Call of Duty, and like these other ones which will face competition in the future. So let's improve the dynamic campaign, improve the World War mode, improve historical campaign, improve the single missions, make it so it's a little bit more fun, so it can rival these big old projects. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.
I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.